Hello everybody and welcome back to another YouTube video, and today we are going to be talking about my FNCS Grand Finals predictions. Now, some of these might be a little bit interesting, so we're going to discuss some of the context behind some of the choices I'm making for my predictions, all of the top 10, where they're landing, the things all around them, things that could go wrong, and most importantly, who is going to be the FNCS champion for this season. So let's get into my top 10 FNCS Grand Finals placements. So in 10th place, unfortunately, we have Tayson and Chapix, who are contested this time around going into FNCS Grand Finals. Now, we know Tayson to be one of those players that will do well regardless of if he's contested. Now, this choice is mainly just because they are contested by Excrease and Podosai, but due to the history of Tayson and Chapix and the sheer prowess of these players, I can't feel comfortable not putting Tayson into the top 10 at least, because just of how crazy of a player that he is currently. But you have to remember, X-Rays and Podosai are no walk in the park. Going into DreamHack Sweden solos, X-Rays was a force that won many of the spawn fights going into players like Tayson and Murstache as well. And mainly in solo practice, we saw X-Rays dominating, even 5-0ing Murstache in certain situations in practice. So he definitely has his drop down for this exact same draw spot. Now, this is a spot that is exactly the way that it looks. It is a 50-50. There's just one point where you're going to be landing on the main tower there. And unfortunately for that, that doesn't mean there's much skill to this draw spot other than your landing. So it's all about the duo that is the most prepared going into the FNCS Grand Finals. And I think X3 sort of has that edge in that situation. But fortunately, the games that Tayson does win or spawn in this situation, he will make the most out of them in those situations and get very good placements in those games, which will be good enough for a top 10 placement while being contested for Tayson and Chapix. Going into place number 9 is Hen and Mr. Savage. Now, going into the heat, it didn't look like this duo would even qualify based on their past performances. Coming in heat number 1, they placed 25th place with a very measly performance, but they came back strong in heat number 2. The fundamentals of this duo is still a little bit lacking overall and leaves a lot to be desired, but when they did qualify in the second heat and they placed first place, they were actually coached by BloodX in that tournament. So we saw a drastic change in the way that they played and how they maneuvered around the map. The question now is, though, with them not being live coached anymore into this FNCS Grand Finals, where does that really put them in terms of gameplay and the way they're going to maneuver all around the mid game? So far, going to practice, Mr. Savage actually playing duo practice for the first time together with Hen. We haven't seen this sort of motivation since him trioing with Benji and Andretta. This motivation was mainly fueled by being contested in Tilted Towers by another duo of Vico and Jackson. However, it's looking like they're just going to be splitting Tilted Towers, with Savage and Hen landing on the north side and Vico and Jackson landing towards the south. Constant improvement in these Grand Finals practice sessions, starting from a 3rd place performance after beating Vico and Jackson on spawn every single game to actually winning some games in some of these sessions, gives me the confidence that they're going to be able to pull it off and get themselves a nice little 9th place performance in this FNCS Grand Finals. If they can find their stride and they can pull back on some of the aggression, even better than this 9th performance might be possible, but 9th is all I can give them for now. Going to 8th place, this one might be something that's a little bit surprising to you guys, but it's Refs and Clown. This pick is pretty surprising just because the state of current Storm Surge changes. I feel like Refs and Clown are going to have a very great tournament from the draw spot of Orchard. The sheer benefit of having an uncontested mid-map draw spot, regardless of the sort of player quality compared to some of the other duos, is good enough, I think, to get at least top 10. Ref's situation is very similar to that of last FNCS Grand Finals, but this time without the fear of being contested or spawn. Last time they placed 13th place while being contested, but a new Grand Finals team, and now with an uncontested mid-map draw spot, it's looking very, very good for Ref's and Clown to get ahead and maybe get themselves a nice little top 10 performance. Potential concerns, though, for this duo come to the north, where they have Fire Hunter, who will be fighting for some of that loot near the lake area and the houses. So it's going to be interesting to see how they push back and pull forward towards that duo towards the north. And obviously to the south, they have Anlex and Snazy, one of the strongest duos coming into this FNCS Grand Finals as well, over at uncontested Coney Crossroads, which could put them into some issues. But knowing them and knowing the experience from Refsgod in an FNCS Grand Finals, he should at least be getting top 8 together with Clown, who also has been an up-and-coming player doing super well in the previous finals as well. Speaking of Anlex and Snazy, that is my 7th place team, and I think this is a team that is not to be rivaled with in this FNCS Grand Final. They qualified in the 1st place in qualifier number 2 with an absolutely insane average placement of 7.67, which is insane, basically getting every single game below top 10 in that finals qualifier. Alex is also coming off a very good LAN performance together with Scram, who sort of has been struggling in recent times, but Alex's IGLing has led them to a very good performance in that $2 million Saudi LAN tournament. So he's set up for a very good FNCS, I feel like. Currently, he's uncontested in Coney Crossroads, which poses Alex to be one of the best and strongest contenders going into this FNCS Grand Finals. But there are some issues. Namely, Hellfire and Flores, who land towards the gas station near Jones's, are looking like they're not too comfortable in their current draw spot. And if I were to predict what was going to happen into this FNCS Grand Final, well, more than likely we're going to see Hellfire and Flores maybe move towards Coney Crossroads at some point in this final, because that's where they've landed in previous times as well. They also landed over at Greasy Goes, where Anlex and Janice are currently landing, but if you're going to pick a duo to contest, you'd rather pick one of the weaker duos compared to Janice and Vadil, who are looking very, very strong this season. So the easier choice would be to go to Coney Crossroads. And with that spawn situation for them at gas station being super weird with multiple people all around them, it's looking pretty good for Flores and Health to perhaps get a surprise landing on them, maybe in the end of day number 1, maybe on the start of day number 2. So I'm expecting a very insane day number 1 for Andlex, especially if they get the spawn RNG for the taxis as well. But in day 2, I think there's a very good chance we're not going to see them uncontested in Coney Crossroads, which will bring them down on the leaderboard into 7th place in total. Now in 6th place, this might be one that's a little bit surprising in terms of the placement on the leaderboard, but I'm going to put Thomas HD and Trippin. And the reason why I'm putting this duo there is just because of their pop-off nature and the inconsistent current spawn fight situation that we're seeing over at Rave Cave. Trippin, who's been absolutely on fire in previous weeks, being basically the MVP going into the $2 million Saudi tournament, getting multiple 5-kill plus games by himself. I feel like he's coming in very, very strong form into this tournament, which is deadly for the finals. You can see and always rely on Thomas HG as well to be a solo clutch master, which gives them both very much confidence going into this final as well. However, the spawn situation for them over at Rave Cave is an interesting one because it's not completely set up. In previous times in Rave Cave, we've seen people land at that slurp truck, loot the vault, and then run away and rotate outwards. But now with the grapplers being inside of Rave Cave, we see a lot of aggression and lots of fights going on inside of that draw spot. And namely, we see Nebs and Mariah currently fighting them every single time down below in the Rave Cave. And that could open up some opportunity for aggression for Trippin and Thomas HD, which, you know, it could be free kills. We've seen them dominate spawn fights before, being very aggressive inside of that draw spot. But Nebs and Mariah are not a duo to be reckoned with. They are very, very strong as well. And with a team above of Sangud and Loki being able to third party that fight, it doesn't look too good for them to have consistent games over 12 games of a grand final. So with an uncertain spawn fight situation, I feel like top 6 is a very kind prediction going into this grand final just because of the sheer nature of these two players, but I wouldn't be surprised if things go wrong for them considering how chaotic the spawn fights in Rave Cave are. So top 6 is all I can give them for now. Going over to 5th place, now this is one of the duos I think is very exciting to watch. It's Joe and the Andy. They're still coming back as one of the weirdest duo combinations. Even looking the split after the nice little performance of last FNCS Grand Finals, they're coming back again into this Grand Finals as one of the more aggressive duos. The landing over at Synapse Station, they had a respectful 9th place performance last season from this draw spot, but this is a different meta. Ziani comes off his 2nd place performance off the build tournament at the $2 million Saudi LAN as well. So that might be the little bit of a confident boost that Ziani requires in order to put themselves into the top 5 in this FNCS Grand Finals. Now, we're talking about the new changes. Storm Surge is obviously a big one, and when you're landing in an edge draw spot like them, that is going to be very difficult to come by. Luckily for them though, we see Shizonami and Force over at the Butterborn, the perfect solution to the early game aggression, giving them the early game surge that they might require from an edge draw spot as well. So don't be surprised to see this duo at the top of the leaderboard, shining with very high elimination games, and maybe even a few pop-off wins now and then if the zone pulled towards the south, because we saw them do that in the FNCS heats in order to qualify as well through a win. So that aggression makes them a very exciting duo to watch, and I think top 5 might just be in the cards for them if they play it correctly. Now in 4th place, this might be another duo you'd be surprised to see, but it's Cammy and Seti. Now originally I put this duo to actually win the FNCS just based off of everyone else being contested all around the map and them having the perfect mid-map spawn situation with accessible grapplers to the north and to the south. But Unfortunately for them, a lot has changed in the past few days, and I'm not so confident in the spawn situation anymore. There's a lot that can go wrong in this grand finals for them. To the north, now they have Paco and Karma, who moved away from the ruins after being triple contested, so they're now landing to the north and to the south of Coney Crossroads, basically taking the Star Wars chests away from Cammy and Seti. That sort of buffer in between them puts them in trouble in finding the grapplers for Cammy and Seti as well. Now that Malabuk in the mid-map is also uncontested, he's going to be looting very quickly and being aggressive towards that mid-map, which doesn't allow Cammy and Seti to find those grapplers that easy either. Now, you might think, well, to the south there's a contested Rocky Views though. You can get those grapplers from there very easy. Well, sure, but what's more than likely going to happen over at Rocky Views, based on current practice sessions, and we see how Trudix and Chicho have been playing that draw spot, it's just going to be a 50-50 over at the billboard. And essentially what that means is, after that 50-50 is done, they're going to get siphoned matched, they're going to run straight towards those grapplers, and essentially you're not going to be able to get those grapplers quick enough if you're Cammy and Seti. Well then, why don't Cammy and Seti just land on top of the grappler gloves? Well, if you do that, then that opens up the opportunity for Karma and Yapko to the north to basically just land more to the south, land on the gas station, and take away all the loot. So like you can see, Cammy and Seti are in a very, very tough situation here, and I'm not too sure if that's going to be enough for them to win this FNCS Grand Finals. If they get the grappler gloves every single game, I can easily see them getting first place, but with such a tough, chaotic situation going on in this mid-map, I'm not too sure about the consistency here. Going into third place is Queasy and Venner, and this is one of the FNCS contenders to win this tournament. Unfortunately, I am not too confident in their current playstyle and the way they're playing the high ground. They're currently playing grapple gloves, they're landing over at Shifty Shafts, and that gives them a lot of opportunity to basically get a lot of loot and the grapple gloves for free. The problem though with this draw spot is that it's split into two spots. You have the north spot and the south side of Shifty Shafts, and basically what that means is it opens up the opportunity for some duos to possibly land to the north and take away part of the loot path. Now, we know Venno to be a very aggressive player, and that's probably not going to fly for them, so they're going to try to W key the teams on top of the mountain, which I don't think will be an easy task. Even though these are two of the best fighters in the game as well, it's not going to be an easy task to just W key up that mountain just because of the elevation changes. So unfortunately for them, I feel like they have a compromised spawn situation, which could put them into trouble in some games, which could just take away their FNCS Grand Finals win from them. Furthermore, we're seeing some leaks in their gameplay, namely some of the ways that they're getting Storm Surge early on. We see them playing split bases on the north and the south mountains, and we saw this even happen in one of the FNCS qualifier weeks where Frey W-keyed one of them as they play separate Surge mountains. And you know, just because they do that, they're taking a big risk sometimes in these mid-game Storm Surge positions, and I can 100% expect one of these teams to see the way that they're playing Storm Surge, W-key in one of their games, and just that one bad game can put them into a bad situation and put them down on the leaderboard. So combining the spawn situation with the exploitative mid-map surge situation for Squeezy and Venno, I'm not too confident into putting them to win this FNCS. I do think if everything goes right and perfectly, there should be no issue for them to win the FNCS because they're coming in as two of the most promising players into this final. But I think there's so many things that could go wrong with them that I'm only going to put them into third place here. Going into second place, now this one is going to be very surprising, and I love to pick wild cards going into the top 4 to 5 in an FNCS tournament, and I wouldn't even call these guys a wild card just because of the way that they've been playing recently, but it is Vadil and Janice. Now Vadil and Janice are coming in as a hot duo after being very, very motivated this season. We're seeing Vadil playing every single session of Noble practice every single day, streaming 10+ hours per day as well. My man is absolutely motivated. It's the first time I've ever seen a fire underneath him, and he's looking good, and it's showing in his placements and his playstyle recently. Going into multiple sessions of the practice, in pro practice and grand finals practice, we're seeing Janice and Vadil coming out as game winners, where some of the other duos we're expecting to be game winners like Venno and Queasy and others are sort of losing the game later on into the games. Vadil and Janice are one of those duos that are consistently winning games in practice. Now, this is obviously a lot different to what is going to happen in FNCS Grand Finals, but if you're winning games consistently against the best, it sort of gives me confidence going into Grand Finals that you're able to emulate that playstyle. Now, I'm not too confident to put them into first place and to win the FNCS just because they land sort of edge draw spot over towards Greasy Grove, so any of those northern zones they might struggle with. But if they continue to play the way that they are and they're also a team that doesn't play grapple glove, so they're able to, you know, adapt to a variety of difficult situations. That's going to give me faith for them to play that key high ground position going into those late games and possibly being a multiple game winner in this FNCS Grand Finals. Now, there's not really too much that can go wrong other than themselves, and I feel like having an experienced IGL and players Janice together with Vidil, who's been playing insanely recently, is a deadly combination and could put them into second place into this FNCS Grand Final. Last but not least, the FNCS Grand Final winner, and I'm going to give it over towards Malabuka and Murstache. Now, it wasn't looking good for them because they were looking contested up until a few days ago, but Malabuka and Murstache are coming in as the hot favorite, finally being uncontested in an FNCS Grand Final with mid-map positioning, a team to the north that is contested, giving them early surge as well. These guys are playing absolutely insane. And obviously, Malabuka coming off a massive build tournament final win together with Epic Will is also giving me confidence. Now, I didn't think that Malabuka was the IGL in the duo when he won in Saudi Arabia, but he actually was, and the way that they played, the consistency that they had in that Saudi Arabian tournament gives me so much faith in the way that Malabuka's been IGLing and leading, that I think this is going to be pretty much a cakewalk for them to win this FNCS Grand Final. I'm crossing my fingers that I'm not jinxing them though, but they're looking super strong. One of the more aggressive duos in the lobby. It is a 2 points per kill elimination format, and basically that is the perfect sort of combination of aggression and consistency that I think is going to put them all the way towards the top of the leaderboard and winning this FNCS Grand Final finally for them. Murstache has been playing crazily as well, coming off a 7th place performance with Bad Sniper at the LAN as well. I just feel like this is just the perfect time for Malabuka and Murstache to finally win an FNCS, and both of them have zero pressure going into it. They did both super well at LAN, so they're basically playing it calm. They have no issues. Anyone in the top 5 can basically win this FNCS. It all just depends on the way that they're feeling on the day and the spawn situations that can happen. If Kaimin said he get the grapplers, I'll spawn every single time, I can see them winning. If Venom or Queasy are not going to get landed on, not going to get pushed in the split search position, then I can see them winning as well. But there's so much that can go wrong in every single situation that it is so difficult to predict the top 5. But that is my top 10 for this FNCS Grand Finals. I did do a stream where I talked about my choices for other placements from 50th to 1st place. It's a little bit outdated just because some drop spots have changed since then, but it is worth checking out. So follow my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/CoachBoop. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Goodbye.